What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another week on my channel after I missed 2 weeks of uploading, which I will talk about more later in the video. But for now, we're going to talk about a March monthly update on my health. So let's jump right in. So the month of March actually started off really weird because I was in urgent care twice and had like 3 different doctor's appointments trying to figure out what was wrong. And it was not related to chronic illness, so that was a little bit different for me. Basically what happened, I think it was like the first day of March or the second day. It was early on in March. I had a really severe asthma attack, which I believe I've mentioned it before on the channel, but I've had asthma since I was a kid and had kind of like outgrown it, and then apparently it's back since I had COVID last year. And I had this asthma attack that was probably the worst I've had in 15 or 20 years, which was really scary. And then it started impacting my chronic illnesses because of the trauma from the asthma attack itself. So once I was able to get all of that sorted out and get on the treatment plan that I needed to for the asthma, then it was kind of playing catch up from a chronic illness standpoint, because at that point I had already flared up. I think it took about 2 weeks to get everything sorted out with the steroid that I was on for asthma. So then at that point, I went back to the doctor to try to figure out what we could do to help with the chronic illness at that point. So basically what ended up happening was the asthma attack was so bad that I had almost stopped breathing, and it had caused a lot of trauma just to my body in general. And that resulted in me going into a flare. So I had a lot of widespread pain, which I know I've mentioned before, but usually when I'm in a flare, my pain levels are like 6 to 8 on a 1 through 10 scale usually. So it was pretty usual there, anything out of the ordinary for a flare. And then I started having a lot of just weird symptoms, which I think some of it was related to the steroids that I was on as well. But I have noticed that like my skin issues and a lot of my sensory system that is normally off during a flare was actually worse after I was on the steroid. Because the way that the steroid works, a lot of times it will actually help with the skin issues that I have and the sensory issues that I have. So when I came off of that, it was like kind of a domino effect of everything then starting back in the middle of a flare. So then it was the challenge of trying to figure out what I needed to be doing differently to combat the chronic illness side, now that the asthma was kind of like regulated and not a concern at that point. Obviously, because of how intense the asthma attack was, it caused a lot of longer lasting effects as well, which I know I've mentioned it before, but one of the main triggers for chronic illness flares has to do with stress, and that's not necessarily like stress personally or professionally or something. It can also be stress on your body, and so that was one of the main contributing factors. And given that stress contributes directly to the cognitive functions and the way that I struggled there, the month of March was really difficult when it came to processing information, recalling information, and trying to really perform any tasks that required cognitive functions in general. So one of the reasons why I've actually been kind of MIA for a little bit has been trying to figure out next steps of what I need to do to address the cognitive piece, because there aren't really any medications out there for it, and there really aren't any options that doctors give you to try to figure out how to address it. And so it started to pretty extensively impact my daily work in my career that I have, which resulted in me having to go on medical leave. while I'm talking about chronic illness and trying to work a full-time job, I do want to mention, if you aren't able to work a full-time job, don't beat yourself up over that, because there are plenty of other people in the chronic illness community that aren't able to work a full-time job or even a part-time job, and that's okay. It doesn't make you any less of a person or make you have any less of purpose on the earth just because you can't perform certain tasks that maybe other people can, because you have abilities that other people don't as well. So don't beat yourself up over that. I know it's been something that I've been struggling with, because it's a very emotional experience to get to the point where you know that you can't actually continue to work. And so I don't want you to feel alone in that if that's you, because I'm currently walking through that myself. Since I was pretty sick for the first couple weeks with a lot of the asthma related issues, and then the impact of that on my chronic illness continued for really the last 2.5 weeks of March, I didn't really focus much on exercise or even self-care in general. It was more of like survival mode and less about trying to go above and beyond. So I didn't actively exercise or make a point to exercise, but I tried to stay active as much as possible, even if that was just like getting up and walking around for a few minutes every hour, to make sure that my mobility stayed up. I think that's one of the main struggles, because the less that you get up, the worse that you feel, actually, and your mobility will just kind of like slowly go downhill. And so try to stay as active as possible, even if it's just the smallest little things and you don't have the energy to get up and do like a 30-minute workout, because most days I would probably make it like 15 minutes in, if that, and that's a very low impact exercise as well, not anything crazy. So again, even with exercising, like, don't beat yourself up if you are in a season of your chronic illness when you can't work out, because that's a lot of our community, and that's why we're here to support each other. Even if you can just get up and walk across the room and achieve the little moments of keeping your mobility up, it's really, really, really important for you. And it helps your mental health as well. So try to stay as active as you can. The only other important thing that you'll probably get sick of hearing me talk about is drinking water, because it's so important. I've mentioned it before, but I can tell by very early in the morning if I haven't started my day by drinking water, and a lot of that is because of chronic illness, but obviously just in general, like, your body needs water to survive. So that was one of the main things that I tried to focus on, even in the middle of kind of being sick and not necessarily wanting to drink just water. And I think it makes a lot of difference, especially when you're trying out different types of medications and trying to get to the bottom of what exactly is going to help you in the middle of all the craziness that's happening physically. So don't forget to drink your water. Over the next couple of months, I'm going to try to continue to upload weekly. Now that I'm on leave, it'll probably be a little bit easier to do that. And so I'll keep you updated on kind of where I stand from a cognitive standpoint, and hopefully we're able to figure out some kind of a plan to help me. I hope you enjoyed this update for the month of March. As always, if you liked the video, be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, all the fun things, and I'll see you again next week for another video.